The Animal Kingdom, a remarkable collection of living, breathing, natural wonders. Spectacular, powerful, vivid, and miraculous. Graceful, resourceful, agile, and fearless. Discover their past, present, and future. Just captivating. Just exceptional. Just marvelous. Just animals. Waterbirds. An umbrella term for this eclectic group of animals, many being able to move with ease between air, land, and the aquatic world. A rarity even amongst their own kind. Of the estimated 11,000 species of birds worldwide, only about 1/10 live in and around waterways. While this diverse collection of creatures is drawn to the water, there is more that divides than unites them. Some are small enough to hide amongst the reeds. Then there are those that just skirt around the edges, tiptoeing in for a feed. Others are difficult to miss, making a spectacle of themselves, migrating en masse between waterholes. Several are expert divers, holding their breath for up to a minute. While those with the widest wingspans can soar for up to 15,000 kilometers over the ocean before returning to dry land. From icy habitats at the end of the Earth to tropical ponds and marshes far from the coast. They've evolved to survive in the harshest of environments. Webbed feet help with propulsion. Tucked up for warmth and to rest. Long legs and beaks enable some to hunt for food while keeping their bodies dry. And for those that do immerse themselves, waterproof feathers ensure they don't get weighed down. The graceful, the prehistoric, the exotic, and the determined. Through clever adaptations, these winged creatures have created a home for themselves across the waterways of the world. Waterbirds have uniquely evolved to straddle a diverse range of environments, but they still share some common traits with others in the animal kingdom. Like all vertebrates, they have an internal skeleton to support their body and give them a range of movements. And highly developed sensory organs that help them react quickly to changes in their surroundings. Like mammals, birds are endothermic, or warm-blooded, able to maintain a body temperature of around 38 degrees Celsius, regardless of extreme weather conditions. But it's what's on the outside that truly sets them apart. Birds are the only animals covered in feathers, a distinguishing feature of the class Aves. They're also bipedal, walking on just 2 legs, their front limbs modified into wings. Their nose and mouth are combined to form their characteristic beak or bill. This solid feature is made from keratin, the same structural protein that makes up their plumage. Waterbirds can be loosely grouped into 3 categories: true aquatic birds, waders, and seabirds. True aquatic species are waterbirds that have evolved to live most of their life on or under the surface. While the majority of land birds would sink if their plumage got soaked, these animals have waterproof feathers to help them stay afloat, and webbed feet to propel them. There are 3 main orders of these aquatic birds, starting with the Anseriformes. These predominantly freshwater species are more commonly known as waterfowl. They include ducks, geese, and swans. Most are recognizable for their broad, flat bills, used for digging out aquatic plants and insects. The second order of true aquatic birds are the Pelecaniformes. These include some species of egrets and larger species such as shoebills and pelicans. The most flamboyant of the true aquatic birds are flamingos, the sole surviving members of the order Phainopteriformes. Their long neck and curved beak allow them to dig for their diet of crustaceans and algae, which are responsible for the color of their plumage. The second grouping of waterbirds are the waders. These semi-aquatic species hover around the edges of lakes and ponds. Their long legs and necks allow their bodies to stay dry while they search for food in the substrate. Storks belong to the order Siconiformes. These large waders are known for their long legs, necks, and bills. Most of the 200+ species in the order Gruiformes are amongst the smallest of the waders. Coots and rails, including the distinctive swamp hen, make up over half their numbers. They're built to be fast on the ground and in the water. The much larger crane is also in this order and tends to stand out. The seabirds are the final grouping. Species that predominantly live around saltwater environments. Long-distance travelers, like the albatross, form the order Procellariformes. They can spend weeks gliding over oceans. So too can smaller seabirds. Terns, snipes, skuas, and gulls make up the order Categorizing. Many will travel thousands of kilometers to warmer climates in winter. Regardless of their size or shape, where they live, or how they hunt, this collection of birds all share the same common need: to be around water to survive. Of the more than 850 species of waterbirds, several have a habit of drawing attention to themselves, such as the whooper swan. This northern hemisphere bird is one of 7 species of true swans found worldwide. Size-wise, whoopers are one of the largest swans, weighing up to a hefty 11 kilograms. Perhaps the most memorable in this genus is the black swan. Apart from its unique coverage of dark feathers, this Australian native bird can hold its head high, with the longest neck of any swan. They might not share the elegance of their larger, more celebrated cousins, but geese are a common sight on every continent except Antarctica. Most species use waterways as a safe haven to roost and avoid predators. But they'll often feed on land, eating grass, seeds, and berries. Kelp geese are an exception. These small South American birds live along rocky coastlines, where they have easy access to their diet of seaweed. In contrast, ducks are omnivorous, enjoying aquatic plants, plus crustaceans and insects. Their diving skills are well renowned, able to hold their breath as they forage on the substrate. Eider ducks are accomplished divers. These sea ducks can go as deep as 20 meters to search for food. They're found around the chilly waters of the northern hemisphere. Their down feathers are so soft and insulating, they are collected for human bedding and light, warm clothing. As with many birds, the male has the more attractive plumage. Pelicans are instantly recognizable for their impressive throat pouches and bills, which can grow up to 50 centimeters in length. Large wings allow them to glide on thermals for up to 24 hours. On land, though, their bulky bodies and webbed feet make moving awkward. They are, however, not the most bizarre looking amongst their kind. The shoebill's appearance verges on the intimidating. This African wader stands almost 1.5 meters tall, and its wings spread to almost twice that. The spoonbill has a more comical take on beak design. Found on every continent except Antarctica, they use the bulbous end of their bill like a metal detector, sweeping the substrate for any fish or crustaceans. Spoonbills share inland waterways with other long-legged, long-beaked relatives, like ibis and storks. These wading birds prefer to spend at least part of the year in the warmer regions of Australia, Asia, Africa, and America. The saddlebill's appearance is far from subtle. It's as tall as a human, and its wingspan is close to 3 meters across. While other storks grow to a similar height, this one's bill is like a beacon. Bright red in color and topped with a vibrant yellow shield. Cranes share the same habitat and are close in stature to a stork, but they're not related. Their beaks are generally much shorter and sharper, designed primarily for digging on land. And while storks are mostly silent, cranes can vocalize. Of the 15 identified species, the black-crowned crane is the most eye-catching. This African bird looks like it's decked out in fancy dress, with a crown of bristle-like feathers on its head. Not all of its relatives are quite as imposing. The compact-sized coot has been compared to an old man due to the hunched-over way it walks. This member of the rail family spends the majority of its life in waterways around the world, diving for food, surviving in even the harshest of climates. Some birds are very comfortable losing sight of the shore, crossing vast stretches of ocean to feed and mate. With their split tail, sooty terns are an easily recognizable species around tropical waters. But despite flying between continents, these energetic birds can't float because their feathers aren't waterproof. They manage to stay airborne for lengthy periods by taking short naps, lasting just a few seconds. Skuas have the luxury of a more restful migration. These close relatives of the gull are hardy birds, often living at the ends of the Earth in the polar regions. During winter, they fly to less inhospitable climes. Their plumage is waterproof, allowing them to swim and stay warm in the icy sea. Across every continent and virtually every ecosystem, waterbirds have evolved to thrive with the help of some innovative survival strategies. Adaptation is the key to survival. One of the biggest challenges for any warm-blooded animal is to not lose too much heat, which is even a risk in tropical environments. For waterbirds, staying dry and comfortable comes down to the layout and density of their feathers. In terms of layers, sturdy flight feathers on their tails and wings help to support their weight when airborne. Contour or body feathers act as a protective coat. Each one has a series of tiny hooks connecting it to the next, securely locking them together to form a wind and weather-resistant barrier. The innermost layer is comprised of fluffy down feathers that insulate the bird. Overall, this combination of feather types give them an incredible advantage in an aquatic environment. In addition, a waterbird's plumage is thicker than their terrestrial counterparts. A bird of prey has between 5,000 and 8,000 feathers, while an adult swan has roughly 3 times that amount. Since soggy feathers will sink them, waterbirds need to take extra precautions against getting wet. In a process known as preening, they cover the outer layer of their plumage with an oil produced from a gland under their tail. While this coating helps to repel water, it needs to be constantly replenished. They can spend up to a quarter of their day protecting their feathers this way, it's not just their bodies that need protection from the elements. Both waders and swimmers rely heavily on their feet. For speed during liftoff, as shock absorbers when landing, and to help them access food. Webbing between their toes pushes back water to propel them forward. The angle they move them at helps them to steer. In chilly conditions, birds' feet can endure standing on ice because they're cold to begin with. A network of arteries known as the wonderful net wires the bird's heart to its feet in such a way that the small amount of blood that's pumped down to the feet is cold when it gets there and gets warmed up on the return journey. This clever heat exchange system ensures the bird's core is kept warm, while also keeping heat loss to a minimum. In addition, their feet have very little muscle tissue, instead mostly tendons and bone, so they require minimal blood flow. It's a common sight to see what appears to be one-legged waders standing around the edges of waterways. This not only helps with heat retention, but alleviates muscle fatigue too. This unipedal pose allows them to rest one limb at a time and enables them to swivel more easily to check for danger than if both legs were bearing their body weight. For many waders, the shape of their legs has evolved to give them ease of movement in water. Their strange gait appears to be caused by backward bending knees. But these joints are actually the ankles on these high steppers. The upper leg bone sits horizontally, hidden amongst their feathers. Long toes and webbing help to distribute their weight more evenly, allowing them to walk over a range of surfaces. The length of their legs and elongated necks gives them access to plants and animals living in deeper water, while still keeping their body dry. They also provide an elevated platform to spot their prey. Resting is always a risky time for waterbirds. While they need to stay close to their food supply, in doing so, they run the risk of being targeted by predators. One solution is to have drab coloration. The duller their feathers, the easier it is to camouflage on the ground. Some species, like the ibis and heron, have the option to perch. Having partially webbed feet means they can cling on with their exposed toes. For their fully webbed relatives, branch time is a balancing act and more of a short-term solution. Larger or more vibrantly colored species have no option but to seek safety in numbers. For many waterbirds, their survival skills have been honed over millions of years, as necessity brought them out of the skies and off the land into the aquatic world. Birds are evolution's late arrivals, turning up millions of years after fish, insects, reptiles, and even mammals. Many scientists believe their earliest ancestors were small, meat-eating dinosaurs called theropods, their sharp teeth eventually turning into beaks. This group of two-legged runners also included the much larger Tyrannosaurus rex, which remained landbound while others gained flight, such as Archaeopteryx, Dating back 150 million years, this is the oldest known bird fossil. Discovered in a German swamp, it represents proof for many paleontologists that birds descended from dinosaurs. When an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, birds survived. One example being Gastornis. This large, flightless bird existed between 55 and 40 million years ago. Studies of their massive beaks have led experts to believe they were herbivores. Gastornis are thought to be ancient relatives of waterfowl. Interestingly, the closest remaining relative to a bird is the crocodile. While much of evolutionary research has focused on the move of animals from the sea to land, it took time for many birds to develop the ability to live in and around water. It took until about 30 million years ago for pelicans and flamingos to appear. Roughly around the same period, the first oceanic species took flight, including ancestors of the albatross. Like all water birds, they were a long time coming, but their versatility now gives them the edge over their terrestrial relatives. Waterbirds are generally highly social animals, congregating in large groups on land, in the air, and even in the water. However, it's not just birds of a feather that flock together. Waterfowl are often tolerant of other species sharing their wetlands, as long as there's enough food to go around. But they can be less accommodating of their own kind if they feel there's a threat to their territory, using any tools at their disposal to fight off a rival. In amongst bevies of swans, squadrons of pelicans, and flamboyances of flamingos, there's an established pecking order that needs to be maintained. This steamer duck is an unwelcome intruder amongst a peaceful paddling of waterfowl, and the dominant male must assert his authority. For now, this newcomer's place is on the periphery of the group. From small-scale interactions to mass migrations. Every year, when the weather starts to cool, flocks of hundreds of birds will take to the skies, sometimes traveling thousands of kilometers to feed and breed. The majority of aquatic species migrate, using celestial navigation and the Earth's magnetic field to find their way across land and oceans. To conserve energy, many of the larger birds, like geese, will fly in formation, often in the shape of a V, each slightly above the one in front of them to decrease wind resistance and conserve energy. These travelers take turns to spearhead the flock. It's an exhausting journey, but necessary for the survival of their species. Waterbirds need ideal conditions to mate and bring new life into the world. Most are monogamous, staying with the same partner every breeding cycle. But they still need to identify each other when they arrive at their nesting spot. Male common cranes call to their partners, their beaks pointed skywards for maximum projection. The piercing cry is quickly answered. The crested grebe has a more intimate mating ritual. Using their headdress to full effect, they perform a dance to ensure they've found their ideal match. Despite flying up to 15,000 kilometers to return to their nesting ground, the wandering albatross still has the energy for an elaborate display. They need to track down their partner from previous years. And in large colonies, it's a mission that requires patience. A reveal of their 3-meter wingspan begins the identification process, followed by a series of head bobs and bowing. Bill snapping and touching will confirm if this is the right pairing. This is just the start of the long breeding cycle. Many will have months together before it's time for them to head off on their own again, soaring over the ocean. For birds that live in and around the water, finding a safe place to nest can be a challenge. Many will spend at least a month incubating their eggs, preferably out of reach of predators. Storks are not opposed to artificial perches for their nests. These feathery builders often make additions to nests from previous years, creating oversized homes out of sticks where both parents will care for their offspring. Non-migratory species like the little black cormorant opt for a more natural setting to protect their clutch of eggs. Colonies of these diving birds will take over trees by the banks of a waterhole, watching out for any unwelcome visitors. For species too large to comfortably perch, ground nests are the only option. But they still try to build them out of harm's way. This black swan has chosen an island in the middle of a lake to make her messy bed of twigs. It will house up to 10 eggs over the next month and a half. For smaller, more vulnerable birds, the safest nest is one with a moat. This moorhen is staying high and dry on a floating platform surrounded by water. She'll look after about 5 eggs on this reedy nest, assisted by extended family members. Great crested grebes also share nesting duties. This female is finessing her perch in a lake. Over the next 4 weeks, the male will remain close and do his fair share of egg sitting. For seabirds, isolated coastlines are the ideal place to stay clear of danger. Female black-browed albatrosses only produce 1 egg every year, so they need to ensure it has the best chance of survival. Their nest is a mound made from mud and droppings or guano. Both parents share incubation duties, the egg hatching after 2 months. When it emerges, the chick is covered in a loose coating of down. but the baby still needs its parents to guard and feed it. When they're fully feathered, at around 7 months, young albatrosses finally head out to sea. A masked booby chick is almost the same size as an adult by the time their down develops into juvenile feathers, at around the 4-month mark. After they've fledged, the chicks tend to stay with their parents for another month or two before leaving the colony and heading seawards. Australian pelicans take a communal approach to parenting, congregating in groups of up to 40,000 birds along inland waterways. Each female will lay up to 3 eggs. They will hatch over several days after a month-long incubation. Pelicans are altricial birds, meaning their naked, blind chicks emerge helpless and are completely reliant on their parents. The first to hatch is usually the largest and is given the most food, increasing its chance of survival. Pelican chicks are fed regurgitated fish from deep inside their parents' throat pouch. The chicks will stay in the colony for at least 4 weeks before progressing to a creche. Several species of waterbirds are semi-independent or precocial from the moment they hatch. They're only a few days old, but these moorhen chicks are already able to swim and feed themselves with a bit of help from mum. Being precocial birds, these baby swans or cygnets are also on the move early, but only close to shore. Their coverage of down could easily get waterlogged and drag them under if they're out too deep. Cygnets stay with their parents for at least half a year before venturing out on their own. Kelp goslings spend most of their early days ashore, following mum about and looking for algae to eat off rocks. But they'll also brave the waters of the South Atlantic Ocean, learning how to find food below the surface in preparation for when their feathers come in. Even after they're able to fly, the goslings will remain with their family for the first year of their life. Most waterbird offspring gain their flight feathers and independence within several months of hatching. And many have a generous lifespan. As with most animals, their life expectancy is largely influenced by their ease of finding food and their risk of predation. Smaller species, like grebes, live for around 8 years. On average, wild Canada geese can live for 10 to 25 years, their domestic cousins having a similar lifespan. Larger birds like pelicans have been known to survive for 25 years. In the wild, flamingos average between 30 and 40 years. Swans up to 40. And wandering albatross can enjoy lifespans of half a century. Plenty of time to explore the wide world. Waterbirds have a variety of diets. Depending on the species, the environment they live in, and how they're equipped to feed themselves. Many, like storks, egrets, and gulls, are carnivores. They use their sharp beaks to quickly snatch their preferred meal of fish, swallowing their food whole. These meat-eating birds will also target crustaceans and amphibians. A few species are more aggressive in their hunting style. This southern giant petrel has come across a rookery of rockhopper penguins on a subantarctic island, the ideal feeding ground for a predatory seabird. It approaches with large wings outstretched to intimidate and warn other hovering birds that this nest is taken. But the guard penguin stands its ground. Skuas are a smaller but equally skilled Antarctic predator. This aggressive relative of the gull has its sights set on an Adelie chick, swooping in while the parents are momentarily distracted. The adults are larger than the attacker, and for now are able to fend it off. But if the chick succumbs to its injuries, it could still end up as a meal for the skua. Not all waterbirds are such ruthless diners. Geese are predominantly herbivores, foraging around the banks of ponds for shoots, stems, roots, seeds, nuts, and berries. In some parts of the world, their dining habits and population numbers have negative impacts. For example, Nile and Canada geese are considered invasive species. Apart from causing crop damage, they can spread diseases to livestock and cause airstrike incidents at airports. The majority of aquatic species are omnivores, opportunistic feeders that survive on a mix of land and water plants, plus any insects or small animals that come their way. Extracting their meals from a fluid environment requires some special skills and adaptations. Swans and ducks can hold their breath for about half a minute or so in their head-down, tail-up feeding style. Cormorants can stay under for at least twice as long, some reaching depths of 30 meters or more. Pelicans have a gula, or throat pouch, attached to their lower bill that can hold up to 13 liters of water. This pouch works as a net, helping these seabirds catch up to 2 kilograms of fish every day. Like other species that feed in marine environments, coastal waterbirds have had to develop a way of dealing with the high levels of seawater they consume. They've got a special gland near their eye that extracts salt from their bloodstream, which is then secreted via their nostrils. Waterbirds aren't just consumers in the food chain. Eggs and hatchlings are an important food source for many animals, including birds of prey, lizards, snakes, and mammals. Crocodiles have been known to attack waders, and the occasional paddlers, such as ducks, but they're low down the list of their preferred foods. Humans are another major predator of waterbirds, targeting certain species for consumption. Waterbirds play other roles in their ecosystems. Their eating habits help to recycle nutrients back into the environment. Many act as seed dispersers, promoting new growth. And the ones that feed on insects and other invertebrates provide natural pest control services. Apart from all this, waterbirds have something else to offer: natural grace and beauty. Thanks to their wide distribution, waterbirds have been capturing the world's attention throughout history. In ancient Egypt, Thoth, the god of the moon, writing, wisdom, and magic, was often depicted with the head of a sacred ibis. In Chinese mythology, ducks were seen as heavenly messengers, bridging the gap between mortals and the divine. Throughout Asia, they're associated with good luck and happiness. In Western cultures, ducks are featured in nursery rhymes, stories, and animations, often as symbols of fun. In medieval Europe, it was believed that mother pelicans pierced their chests to feed their chicks with blood. This noble act came to symbolize the sacrifice of Jesus and is frequently seen in Christian artworks. As for storks, medieval folklore links them to newborns. These birds believed to be responsible for dropping off bundles of joy to expectant parents. In Japan, cranes are considered a natural treasure, linked to luck and longevity, celebrated through origami. The gracefulness of swans is immortalized in ballet and artworks. In England, they've long been considered the property of the royals. The black swan has come to represent Western Australia, just as the Canada goose is a symbol for the country it's named after. From light-hearted tourist attractions to famous hotels and ancient treasures, the long-held affection and admiration we feel for these wondrous birds is undeniable. While many waterbirds have come to symbolize celebrated aspects of our culture, our impact on them isn't always as positive. Globally, aquatic birds are struggling. Almost a fifth of the species are considered threatened. More than half are in decline. And humans are largely responsible. Habitat destruction is the biggest problem facing waterfowl. Our world and theirs are increasingly colliding as we encroach on their natural homes. Even in countries where birds are protected, migrating species still have challenges. Their traditional flight paths, or flyways, are sometimes no longer viable because the stopover points where they rest and refuel are disappearing. Pollution, reclamation of land for development, and rising sea levels from global warming are all having a major impact on these crucial intertidal zones. Offshore oil spills also have a devastating effect on swimming birds. This pollutant can also disrupt their waterproofing, making them susceptible to hypothermia, and causes potential organ failure through ingestion while preening. But there are signs the tide could turn in their favor. Increased monitoring and research is proving how important these birds are to their ecosystems, through keeping the growth of vegetation and the number of small animals in check, by recycling nutrients back into the environment, and acting as important bioindicators of ecological conditions across aquatic habitats. Internationally, regulatory bodies are starting to tighten restrictions on pollutants and runoff. Governments are beginning to understand the need to contain urban sprawl. Conservationists are working to actively rehabilitate wetlands and raise public awareness to protect these aquatic animals. And slowly, we are beginning to understand how unique these birds actually are. With their strange, yet fascinating looks. extraordinary features and incredible adaptations to withstand nature's extremes. Combined, these remarkable traits allow them to achieve what no other animals on Earth can: the ability to comfortably fly, dive, wade, and swim their way across every type of waterway in the world.